Alright, so what I want to do in this video is talk a little bit about, I honestly think these might be my favorite problem, my most favorite problems in economics. It's these little tables, and you might hate them, that's fine, I love them. So sorry, but your opinion's wrong because I'm right, they're the best. The reason why is it's just a little puzzle, and I'm going to hopefully try and make this a little bit easier and a little bit faster for you rather than having to fill out the entire table. So the first thing we want to do is we need to identify the important equations associated with this. And you definitely want to memorize these. What I did when I took Econ 110, I went to the test, I had a scratch piece of paper. First thing I did, I wrote out these equations before I did any questions. That way I could always refer back to them so I don't forget them. So when I approach a question that I don't understand, guess what? I have those questions as a little cheat sheet to help me break it down. I also memorized like the graphs, but I think you won't need to because trust me, you'll get lots of practice drawing these graphs. Okay. So let's talk about what equations you need to know. So first of all, let's talk about total cost. So there's three main ones you need to know. I'll go over some other ones, but I think you'll pick on pretty fast why you don't need to know the other ones because they're kind of intuitive if you know the first three. So the first one is total cost is equal to fixed cost plus variable cost. Very important. Second, and I'm going to put numbers next to the important ones. Marginal cost of a quantity is equal to the total cost of that quantity minus the total cost of the previous quantity. Okay? And we'll go over what that means exactly because that can be a little weird. Then finally, average total cost. Whoops, I can't write. Average total cost is equal to total cost divided by quantity. All right, so those are the three I would definitely know. Now, there are other ones that are important. For example, anytime you see an A, guess what? It's an average. And if it's average, you're just dividing that thing by quantity. So if it's average variable cost, it's just variable cost divided by quantity. Average fixed cost is fixed cost divided by quantity. Average revenue, guess what? Total revenue divided by quantity. What about marginal revenue? Guess what that is? Oh, you just substitute cost for revenue. It's the same exact equation as number 2. So it's marginal revenue of the quantity is the total revenue of the quantity minus total revenue of the previous quantity. That works. And then also you have profit is equal to total revenue minus total cost, or price, what is it? Oh, price minus average total cost times quantity. I think that's all of them. I don't think I'm missing any. Like I said, all of these pretty intuitive. These three I feel like are the only ones that maybe aren't intuitive. Well, this one is just, you can substitute with any of these, but it's just this idea that average is just the thing divided by quantity. So I'm using total cost because that's the most common. Okay, so now that we know these equations, let's look at the problem. So it says for the first incomplete records in the table above, determine the value of W. Okay, so a lot of people's approach, they fill out the whole table. If that works for you, go for it. I just don't want to take that time to do it. So what I do is, what do I want? I want W. What is W? It is the marginal cost at quantity 3. So I'm going to write that down. So it's the marginal cost of 3 is equal to W. Can you see this? Oh, you can barely see it. Well, actually, let's move this. Yeah, that's better. Okay. Marginal, so I'm gonna make this, let's make this pink so it stands out more. Okay, so marginal cost of 3. So now I look, which equation do I use for marginal cost? Well, number 2 works. So I know the marginal cost of 3, so I need is equal to the total cost of 3 at quantity 3 minus the total cost of the previous quantity, which is quantity 2. So now do I look? Do I have the total cost of 3? Actually, yeah, I do. It's right there. So this is 400 minus, now do I have the total cost of quantity 2? I do not. So I need that. Okay, so I'm going to do this in green. So N is equal to total cost at quantity 2. So how can I find this? So we see that total cost is in 2 equations. It's in 1, it's in 2, and it's technically in 3. So let's just go through 3 really fast. 3 is average total cost. We don't have the average total cost, so we can't do 3. Because total cost divided by quantity, so we don't have the average total cost. Now we could do, let's look at 1. It's fixed cost plus variable cost. Now we don't have the variable cost, and we don't have the fixed cost. We can figure out the fixed cost, and I'm going to show you a hack on how we can figure out the fixed cost later. But we don't have the variable cost at quantity 2, so I don't think we could figure that one out because we need a variable cost or average variable cost. So let's look at equation 2, which is the marginal cost of 2 is equal to the total cost of 2 minus the total cost of 1. Now, do we have the marginal cost of 2? Would you look at that? It's right there. So that means 90 is equal to total cost of 2 minus the total cost of 1. Do we have the total cost of 1? Look at that. It's right there. So 150 total cost 2 minus 150 is equal to 90. Oh, you can't see. So it's right there. I add 150, add 150. So now total cost of 2 is equal to 240. And now I can plug that boy right in there. So now 400 minus 240 is equal to 160. And there you have it. There's our answer. Look, I understand. That was fast. You're probably not going to do it that quickly or make that, get that. I've done this a lot. It takes practice. Just understand these equations and know what to look for. And trust me, you'll learn to love these questions because it's a little puzzle. Now, going back to the fixed cost and variable cost hack. The important thing is once you figure out fixed cost, the nice thing is, so like for example, right here for number 1, let me do it in red. I know what the total cost, I know what the variable cost is. So if I did 150 minus 70, I'm using equation 1 right here, just a variation of it. I get the fixed cost, which is 80. So now that I know I is 80, let me erase that. Fixed cost is consistent across all of the quantities. So this is 80, this is 80, this is 80. Now this is important to note. Fixed cost is the consistent. However, average fixed cost is different because average fixed cost is the fixed cost divided by quantity. So once you know the fixed cost, you can put on all of them. And another fast way to know the fixed cost is if you ever get the total cost at quantity 0. So right here, like let's say this was 80, for example, that's because the total cost at quantity 0 is always your fixed cost because there is no variable cost when you're not producing anything because variable cost is indicative on production. As you produce more, you cost more. If you're not producing anything, there's no variable cost. So your total cost is very fixed cost at quantity 0. Okay, hopefully this was helpful. No, not you, Siri. Let me know if you have any questions. As always, Adam out.